Hey there, this is CJ Miller. I'm in my kitchen, Shreveport, Louisiana, just across the Red River from Bossier City, Louisiana. And this would be like the second, possibly in a series of videos, probably about three of them. I don't really feel like eating now. One of the things about a good keto diet um, that I mostly do, whereas tonight will not necessarily be keto because I'm having some bow tie pasta, and this will be, uh, the sauce is not exactly keto friendly. It's not harmful in a small portion, but yeah. Um, so what I've worked with is, and it's hard to see it here, but there are three patties on each side, so that's six patties of the Salisbury steak, and this brown sauce uh, started out as a blonde with a little bit of tomato inside of it. So uh, specifically, I had a touch of. Uh, well, I'll just start with it. I started with the hamburger meat, and then I put a little bit of into the hamburger meat. I put half of a chopped onion into the meat. I put a touch of kitchen bouquet. I actually poured it into the meat uh, so that I could mix some of that into the meat. Only about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon by the time I put a little water to dilute it. Uh, and then for the absorption of fluids, and I did put in also, I sprinkled in or I ground in some of this Italian herb blend, which I do. Uh, any kind of a ground beef kind of thing or whatever, I love that. I put it into the meat. But then I also had some Italian breadcrumbs, folded it into the meat also. The breadcrumbs helps with the binding in the absence of an egg, which I did not use an egg. But also, if you add an egg or two or whatever to your uh, ground meats, it'll help them form as a patty. But I didn't do that. But I did use breadcrumbs. You can use crackers, anything like that. I used the, just a basic breadcrumb that comes in a can. You can get them uh, anywhere. This was an Italian variety, and I put just until just until I felt that the consistency was good. Maybe a quarter of this. Uh, and that's a generous estimate. I actually think under a quarter uh, of the meat, in the patties. So now I say this is a Salisbury steak, and this would qualify as a Salisbury steak because there is a very low fat content. This is a 90% hamburger meat. If you're using a ground beef that has a high fat content, say maybe using like a 73% uh, meat and uh, to you know and then the rest of it be fat. Let me do fractions here. uh, it'd be like what? Yeah, so it'd be like a 27% fat roughly in that. If you're using that kind of a consistency uh, of a meat, then you actually can't truly call it a Salisbury steak. A Salisbury steak, uh, by by rule of its domain and by definition of the dish itself, has to be a very low fat content. So I met that requirement, uh, and then of course there's the reason why this is not just a hamburger steak, but it's a Salisbury, is because the various additions, such as the tomato content and the onions and everything. So a hamburger steak would not have that many additions. It could, you can call a Salisbury steak a hamburger steak, but not every hamburger steak is a Salisbury steak. This is very close to a Salisbury steak. I actually could have gone a little bit more tomatoey with it. Maybe the next time I'll add maybe a little bit more uh, a tomato underneath it. So, uh, and then anyway, so yeah, and what I'm gonna do is hold up. You know, you want to take this, and you need something to absorb uh, the um, the sauce that comes off of this, because right now it's nice and thick. I'm very happy to report that as I thought it was going to break and bubble over, it hasn't done that, at least topically. Once maybe I get into the meat, maybe I'll see where there's been some separation. I don't know. But I definitely want it to cool a little bit. I don't want it room temperature or cold or anything like that, but I want it to sit and rest. Any kind of meat that you take out of the oven, you want it to sit and rest and allow as much of the reabsorption of its fluids as possible. And that's going to really help with that. But so some of the roux on it, made like a thick crust on the caps of it. But that's additional flavors and everything. That's a very flavorful roux. And then, but what I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to serve it with, while I'm showing you this, is this bow tie pasta. And the reason why I like bow tie pasta for a kind of a roux sauce like this is because the ridges and the pinches and everything like that, it's really going to help. If there's it's really going to help the sauce, if you will, the gravy with this meat cling. It's really going to work with that, whereas maybe a slick pasta would have less, like just a straight spaghetti or something like that. Maybe as it curls up would have a way to absorb. But if you really want a better clinging, you want to do a pasta like this that has some ridges, has some folds in it, whatever kind of shape. You want to consider texture and everything, but you also do not want to rinse off the starch. So you can pour this out and drain it into a colander if you wanted to bring it to a table in a bowl or something. But it's just me. I'm going to eat it straight out of the boiler onto the plate and then top it. But really, as much as possible, you do not want to rinse this pasta, because the starches help the sauces cling. Freaks people out whenever they see me make a macaroni and cheese or something like that. And it's like, yes, I will strain. Yes, I will clean my stove off with my towel here. Yes, I will clean or drain a pasta, but I don't rinse a pasta. You don't rinse a macaroni style pasta if you want cling. You could do that if you were going to make a butter and herb, but if there's any sort of weight to the sauce, if you put it like butter and herb just in here and it's just butter and herb and everything like that, then you're not really worried. You're worried about, you want there to be even coverage, so you roll it around evenly. But that butter is kind of a fatty and oily, and that it's not really gonna cling the same way a sauce would. So you're not too concerned about the starch. So if you want to rinse it, you could. But with what I'm doing, you definitely want to. You want to leave it unrinsed. The starches will help the sauces cling. Long story short on that. Okay, so the next video I post about this will be me actually sitting at a table testing. It's actually a little early for me. It's weird because I really haven't even worried about having a snack today. It's just it's almost 6 o'clock here, and I probably won't get around to dinner until 8. But I think it's just because when you're making food, the aromas come up, and they kind of, in my mind, they kind of like fill my head and let me know, hey, I think I'm eating, and it's satiating any appetite that I would have. So, and then I've been on a water cleanse for the last couple of days. Well, I mean, I have coffee, but a limited amount of coffee. But I've been on a water cleanse from soda, uh, mostly economic. But yeah, it's good to do that once in a while. I'm so excited. Next time, next video after this will be me sitting down with it, and we'll do a great taste. One other feature that I want to talk about. Anytime you do any sort of ground meat, ground beef or something like that, and if it's a hamburger patty or something like a hamburger steak, maybe if you want it to be a little bit underdone, uh, whatever. It's really, you want to know your sources. If you because it's these are from conjoined meats and everything, that's okay. But with Salisbury steak, in order for it to be a true Salisbury steak, it has to be cooked thoroughly all the way through, and that's why I did this at 300, and I did it for an hour, and then what I did was I put it back in the oven uh, for an additional 20 minutes while I was cooking the noodles. So this went on for an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm pretty sure that it's pretty close to being done. And then now that I've taken it out and set it up here to get those juices pulled back into the meat and everything, because that's what will happen. Some of the juices that run from it, they will naturally absorb back into a meat. See, there is a little breakage going on there, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought. What happens is the juices pull back into the meat. But at the length of the time that this is cooked, I'm pretty certain, I feel pretty confident that I've got a well done uh, Salisbury steak in this. And that's very crucial. It can't be a Salisbury steak if it's not well done. I love you. Bon appetit, love and light. I'll see you soon.